My dad forgot to make a plate for me at Christmas. He said it so casually like I was invisible. My fork rested untouched beside an empty napkin, while the silver trays clinked from hand to hand. There wasn't enough, he added, but I watched my brother's girlfriend lean back with seconds piled high, gravy sliding off her spoon like excess love. I pressed my hands into my lap, nails biting into my palm. My name felt erased from the table, as though I had never belonged to it. My name is Claire, I'm 26, and if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Have you ever sat at a table where silence felt heavier than shouting? The garland above the fireplace flickered green and red, every bulb catching the reflection of glassy eyes that never turned toward me. I studied my dish, the casserole I had baked from scratch, still steaming, the one they'd all devoured without remembering whose hands had carried it in. I didn't argue. My dad's voice was final like a gavel. Instead, I pushed back my chair slowly, the sound carving into the room sharper than any scream. I lifted the pan I'd brought, still half full, and tucked it under my arm. No one tried to stop me until the door. Claire, don't be rude. My mom's voice rang, brittle, already cracking with judgment. I didn't make a scene. I just let the cold December air swallow me whole. The casserole dish warmed my hands, but inside, something colder began to settle. The night air burned sharper than their words ever could. Frost clung to the windshield of my car, tiny veins of ice catching the glow of Christmas lights spilling from their windows. Behind the glass, laughter rose and fell, muffled, as if the house itself conspired to keep me outside. I set the casserole on the passenger seat. The lid rattled when I turned the key, and for a second I thought about driving until the dish grew cold beside me. But something inside whispered, "Not yet." My phone buzzed. A message from my aunt. "You left?" "Everything okay." She must have noticed the hollow space at the table. I typed back, "Dad forgot me again. Said there wasn't enough." Her reply came quick, like she had been waiting. "He never forgets. He chooses." The words struck like a match. I stared at the family photo taped to my dashboard. Last year's Christmas. Everyone in red and green. Me in the corner, cropped by accident, half my face gone. The picture had always bothered me, but tonight it shifted into something else. Proof. Evidence. Inside, I knew my absence would be recast as drama. They'd laugh, say I stormed out. They'd call me ungrateful. But what they wouldn't know was that silence can be a blade, and mine had just begun to cut. I drove slow, letting the casserole's warmth fade beside me. Their voices still echoed in my head, but now they sounded smaller, like ghosts of a story not yet finished. The next morning, my phone lit up with a family group text. "Dad, you embarrassed your mother last night." "Mom, everyone thinks you were ungrateful." Even Sarah brought dessert and didn't complain. "Brother, grow up, Claire. You always make everything about you." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Not one of them asked if I had eaten. Not one. The casserole dish sat clean on the counter. I had reheated it at midnight alone, with the hum of the refrigerator for company. Each bite tasted like ashes. I thought about replying, but what would I say? I was hungry. You forgot me. They wouldn't hear it. They'd twist it into my fault. They always did. Instead, I scrolled back through years of messages. Birthdays they'd skipped, graduations they downplayed, promotions they never acknowledged. The pattern was there, woven tight like a net I'd been caught in since childhood. Then another ping, my aunt again, privately this time. "Claire, don't let them rewrite it. You saw what you saw. You felt what you felt." Her words landed differently, like an anchor. I picked up the photo from my dashboard, the one with half my face missing. I pressed it flat against the table, staring at the jagged edge where I'd been cut off. Maybe it was time to stop asking for space at their table. Maybe it was time to build my own. The thought scared me, but it also glowed faintly like a candle refusing to die. Days passed, yet the sting didn't fade. If anything, it sharpened. My dad's words, "There wasn't enough," looped like a cruel lullaby, but always against the backdrop of my brother's girlfriend licking gravy from her fork, second plate piled high. On the third night, I dreamt of the casserole dish. In the dream, it cracked clean down the middle, two jagged halves reflecting light like glass. When I woke, the image clung to me, heavy and symbolic. At work, I moved through meetings like a shadow. My coworkers laughed about holiday dinners gone wrong. Dry turkey, burnt pies, and I smiled in all the right places. But inside, a colder truth pulsed. Theirs were accidents. Mine was a choice. That evening, I found myself standing in the kitchen with the dish in my hands. Its surface caught the overhead light, smooth and unbroken. I whispered, "You kept me warm when no one else did." The absurdity almost made me laugh, but then I remembered how silence had filled me that night, louder than any scream. My phone buzzed again. "Aunt, you don't have to keep sitting at their table, Claire. There are other tables, other families, even if you build it from nothing." I traced the rim of the dish, the object, now a symbol of two truths, what they denied me and what I could claim for myself. And for the first time, I wondered, what would happen if I stopped trying to be fed and started feeding myself? I didn't answer the family texts after that. Each notification came through like a pebble against glass, sharp but not enough to break me. Still, I saved every message. Screenshots lined my phone, a quiet archive of the way they spun neglect into blame. One afternoon, while sorting papers for work, I slipped the family photo into the same folder, the one where I'd been cropped half out. I looked at it beside my paycheck stub, and suddenly the contrast was unbearable. Here was proof of the family that erased me. Here was proof of the life I was building without them. That evening, I opened my laptop. The screen glowed in the dark room as I drafted an email to my father. Simple, direct. "I will not be attending family dinners until respect is present at the table. Consider this my boundary." I attached the cropped Christmas photo, my half-face staring back, and the group chat screenshots. Evidence, in case they ever claimed confusion. My finger hovered over send. My pulse hammered in my ears. Then I thought of my aunt's words. He never forgets. He chooses. Click. The email flew like an arrow, silent but impossible to ignore. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt steady. And though no reply came that night, the quiet wasn't heavy anymore. It was a space, wide, open, waiting for something new to grow. The casserole dish gleamed under the kitchen light, unbroken still. But I knew its meaning was changing. The reply came 2 days later. "Dad, Claire, stop being dramatic." It was one plate of food. "Families forgive. Don't drag everyone else into your moods." Mom chimed in an hour after. "You embarrassed us again by sending that email. What will your cousins think if this spreads?" I read their words slowly, tasting the same flavor of dismissal I'd been fed my whole life. But this time I didn't swallow. Instead, I printed the email chain. Every line, every screenshot, the cropped photo too. I placed them carefully into a folder, a record not for them, but for me. Proof that I wasn't imagining things. That night, my aunt called. Her voice cracked softly over the phone. I saw the email. "Claire, you were right to send it. Someone needed to hold him accountable. He's been doing this to you for years." Her words poured into me like water on dry soil. For the first time, I wasn't alone in naming what they did. Later, I set the folder beside the casserole dish on my kitchen table. Two symbols side by side, one fragile, one firm. I lit a single candle between them. The flame wavered, throwing shadows across the walls, and I realized something. Silence had always been their weapon. But now silence was mine. I didn't need to scream to be heard. I just needed to stand still long enough for the truth to echo. And it was starting. The following weekend, an invitation arrived, a group message for another family dinner. My name was on it, tucked between emojis and exclamation points, as if nothing had happened. I stared at the screen, then at the folder on my table. Proof. Boundaries. My aunt's words echoing like a steady drum. He chooses. This time I chose too. I typed a single reply. I won't be attending. Please respect my decision. Then I hit send, no hesitation. Minutes later, my brother wrote, "You're overreacting. It was just Christmas. Stop playing the victim." I almost laughed. For years, his words cut me down, but now they felt weightless, like paper trying to pin down stone. I closed my phone and looked around my apartment. Quiet. Safe. Mine. The casserole dish glimmered on the shelf, catching the afternoon sun. I ran my fingers along its rim, remembering how it had warmed my hands that night when no one else bothered. The dish wasn't just a dish anymore. It was a reminder. I could bring something to the table, but I didn't have to leave it there for them. The phone buzzed again, louder this time. "Mom, if you don't come, people will talk. They'll think you've abandoned family." I set the phone down, unbothered. Let them talk. Because maybe, for the first time, I wasn't leaving the table hungry. I was leaving it full of truth, full of myself. And that fullness was enough. Sunday evening, I lit another candle and placed it beside the casserole dish. The flicker of light made the room feel softer, less empty. My phone buzzed on the counter. Unread messages stacked one after another, each one trying to pull me back into their version of events. I let them pile up. Instead, I opened a blank page on my laptop. I began writing a list. Things I deserved. Warmth. Respect. A plate at the table without having to beg. My own traditions. Halfway down, I paused and smiled. I had already started. A knock rattled the door. When I opened it, my aunt stood there, a grocery bag in her hands. "I brought something," she said. Inside was a new casserole dish, wrapped carefully in paper. "For your table," she added, her voice steady but kind. I traced the rim of the gift, feeling its cool porcelain under my fingers. It wasn't the same as the one that carried my silence out the door that night. It was better, because it wasn't a reminder of hunger, but of possibility. We ate together, just the two of us. No judgments, no second-class seat. No measuring of worth by portions on a plate. The food was simple, but it was ours. As we cleared the dishes, I realized revenge didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered, in boundaries kept, in truth named, in new tables built. And for the first time, I wasn't waiting to be served.